So, as we continue, I want to help you learn to recognize. People often say to me, how do we know what to look for? People don't come in saying, this is their story, this is their history. So, how do we identify? How do we recognize when someone has neglect trauma? So, first of all, I want to really emphasize something that naming neglect is hugely meaningful to people. These are people who have spent their whole lives saying, nothing happened to me. I have no reason to feel badly. I have no right to feel badly. They feel shame about feeling badly, especially because they may look like the men in the group as if they have everything going for them. So why don't they feel good? But they don't feel good. Naming this trauma is so validating. People feel so relieved knowing, oh, that's what that is. And I really emphasize that neglect trauma is big T trauma. And in the EMDR world, the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing world, when we first started doing that work in the 1990s, there was this designation, big T trauma and small t trauma. And big T trauma tended to be the overt incident, violent trauma, the event trauma. And the ones that were less tangible were considered small t, as if they were minor. Neglect is not small t. It's trauma in its own right. It is developmental trauma. It is traumatic. They not infrequently use the term life-changing. When you name the neglect trauma, it's like, oh, wow, no one ever got it before. And looking so good on the outside, no one ever saw that they needed help. And often they've been in couples therapy with their partner, and the partner gets all the blame and all the help, and they're off the hook. They don't think they have anything to work on, but they also don't get any help. And they don't really know why they're there except for because of the partner. So discovering I have my own trauma is so validating, so helpful. So what do we look for? And once again, our naming and validating neglect trauma is so reassuring, so validating. It's almost like a kind of absolution or redemption. Often they come in with a whole history of therapists who failed them, who were useless, who didn't have anything for them, and they pretty much expect that we will become sort of part of the pile of failed therapists. And they may very well come in thinking, most therapists are useless. You can't help me. I don't think you have anything to offer. That in itself is a marker. That is an expression of the dilemma. They cannot bear to need another. So the idea that you could be a help to me is threatening, is dangerous. It rattles their self-reliance. So they can't quite afford to believe that we have anything to offer them. we have to learn to see what isn't there. We have to learn to identify what was missing. What are the dead giveaways about what was missing? What are we trying to see? And I want to make a sort of a cautionary point again, and that is back in the 90s when I was, again, coming of age, there was a backlash to all this new awareness of sexual abuse and incest in families. And there was what came to be understood as the false memory syndrome. And clients and therapists were basically villainized and blamed for fabricating, making up trauma stories, making up stories of abuse and, sexual assault and all kinds of things that the sort of the false memory syndrome people were insisting were untrue, were fiction. So we want to be very careful that we're not making up something. So I want to help you really see how we can best find the missing story, the story of what did not happen. So here are some of the things that we're likely to see. The first thing I noticed that I found really interesting right off the bat is what I came to call the 3 Ps of neglect. And this often was very reassuring, particularly to significant others of our our neglect survivor clients, because they were very frustrated by observing this. The 3 Ps, which are expressions of the understimulated, under-firing, under-aroused brain, are passivity, procrastination, and paralysis. They tend to really wait a lot. They wait for the other to initiate, to start. They don't take the initiative, certainly in the interpersonal. Procrastination, losing track of time, being late, not getting there, not getting things done, not following through, not completing things, and paralysis, the collapse, the giving up, where the traumatized person, the incident trauma person, tends to go into fight flight, where under stress they become, hyperactive, more driven, do more, sleep less. The neglect person tends to collapse, to freeze, to do nothing, to go into a state of paralysis, which then evokes tremendous shame and frustration and feeling of being unable to move. Those are the 3 Ps. And I was astonished to see how often that's what jumps out first. And there may be a family member or a partner who's complaining about the neglect survivors' Ps, the behaviors in this way. It's quite consistent. It's interesting. Attentional issues, which I have named already, which is, as we noted, this lack of focus, this lack of attention, this perhaps spaciness or forgetfulness or disorganization. Often partners will complain about clutter, like, wow, you left the dog leash on the floor. It's been there for days. You didn't even notice. They didn't. It's like their attention might be elsewhere. They might be very competent in many ways, but as far as their attention being focused, their attention span is not reliable or not focused, which is why, attentional issues are treated with amphetamine drugs, because the brain is firing too slow. It needs to be speeded up to get the focus, the concentration. So often there's so much shame and self-blame or blame involved when it goes back to these histories of neglect. We see what I call the one-person psychology. So the one-person psychology is a confusing concept. It's kind of ironic. It has two sides that seem like they contradict each other at the same time. And one part of this person is very outwardly focused on the other, because the child of neglect believes, I have no impact. I have no impact on if or when I will ever get any attention from the other. So there's this hypervigilance on the other person's state, the other person's mood, the other person's face, the other person's body language, as if I just monitor them carefully enough, I can basically do what is most likely to calm them, manage them, basically make them more likely to be kind to me. So this vigilance, this hyper attunement to the other, this watching very carefully. And I've had couples where they were so focused on each other's body language and facial expression all the time and reacting to that, often mistakenly, but they felt like, I have to monitor the other to be safe. So this hypervigilance outward. And once again, these men in the group who you ask them about themselves and they respond by talking about their partner, there is no me. There's only the other. And so this focus on the other is, where my attention is so much of the time in the interpersonal. So that's one side of this one person psychology. The other side of it goes like this. There's no one to turn to. There's no one to ask. So much of that child's world is solitary, is alone. So they live in this very solitary, siloed universe. And they think, oh, everyone thinks the way I think. Everyone defaults to what I default to. And the partner might complain, we're out walking together, and they don't even see that I'm 10 feet behind. It's like this person doesn't know how to walk with another person. That's right. They're so used to being in their own world by themselves that there is no one else. So they seem very self-centered at the same time as they're so outwardly focused. So it's this very odd contradiction where on one hand, there is no me, and on the other hand, there's no one but me. it's a very jarring juxtaposition for the other.